We have the privilege to be joined by Karen Sillens of A Plus Resume, excuse me, of uh, of A Plus Career and Resume, who will be leading a tutorial on how to create a standout LinkedIn profile to enhance your career. Karen Sillens is a multi-certified award-winning career and business coach, providing resume writing, career, and executive coaching and business coaching to clients in Kansas City and throughout the US and Canada. Karen had held a membership in the prestigious Forbes Coaches Council since 2016 and was recently published several times in Forbes Online in 2020 and 2021. Was chosen as one of 38 career experts to watch in 2018 on Twitter and is currently rated as a top social media influencer for employment, human resources, and recruitment on Allegiance. She resides in Kansas City, Missouri with her husband, Andrew, and their 4 rescue dogs. Feel free to participate in our discussion by using the chat to add your comments and questions. Karen will address your questions and comments following the presentation. The contents of this program will be recorded for future viewing. Please keep your cameras turned off and microphones muted during the presentation. Looks like everyone has figured out how to do that, so I won't go over how to do that. Thank you again for joining us today. And Karen, you can begin when you're ready.
LinkedIn is such a valuable tool for somebody in their job, for somebody who is just doing an overall job search, or for somebody who has their own business. But so many people don't use it. The majority of my clients, when they come to me, actually have what I call a shadow avatar, which means no picture, and very limited information on their LinkedIn. And it's rather unfortunate because people connect with pictures today. We're a very visual society, but we also want to make sure that we're creating that networking partnership. And a lot of people have a real hesitation. They think, oh, this is going to be like the more traditional social media, and it's not. First of all, how it works is, I think, 6 degrees of separation. We've all heard the between you know somebody who knows somebody who knows somebody going out 6 times. Somehow we all know Kevin Bacon. And apparently he doesn't like that reference, but I'm sorry, Kevin. It's true that there's a lot of connection between people if we just realize who we know that knows somebody else that knows somebody else. And we can leverage that connection to our benefit, regardless of where we are in our career journey. It also works based on algorithms. And there's 3 main algorithms that LinkedIn uses to kind of determine your popularity and how you rank and get attention on LinkedIn. The first is the completeness of your profile. And that's something where a lot of people struggle. They'll fill out little bits and pieces and not do anything else because somebody told them they should be on LinkedIn, but unfortunately they didn't actually go and fill out the full profile. And it's better to be on there than not be on there, but it's even better if you can have a complete profile. And we're going to talk about the different things that you can do to make your profile complete. The second thing that it works on is essentially the number of connections. You'll see just below that in LinkedIn Myths that you need 500 connections for your job search. I have had so many people come to me practically in tears in one seminar I was doing that was actually live a few years back, where a person said, they told me I had to have 500 connections. I don't know 500 people. I am so overwhelmed. And they said, if I don't have that, I'm not going to be able to get a job. Connections are built over time. And we will always start with the number 30. The reason we're starting with the number 30 is the first baseline for LinkedIn to say, okay, this person's more serious about building their profile and connecting with people. And now that they have 30 connections, we're going to unlock some additional free information for them to see. So never think that if you don't have a bazillion connections, that somehow you can't have a good LinkedIn. One of the things that could be helpful to you during this, to see some of the things I'm talking about, is to actually have a LinkedIn profile or your LinkedIn profile or somebody's sample LinkedIn profile up in front of you. It tends to be a better way to look at things and for you to engage and say, oh, that makes sense. Now I know where that is. The last algorithm it works on that really makes a difference is your activity level. A lot of people set up LinkedIn and boom, they're done. That's it. And there is no other activity on there. And then magically, oh, I need a job. Now I'm going to be active on LinkedIn for a little while. And so many people almost feel like if they're your connections, they're being spammed. We don't want to create that kind of environment. We want to continually be involved on LinkedIn, but we want to do it in little pieces so we're not overwhelmed by it and it doesn't take inordinate amounts of our time. Another thing is to make sure that your stuff that you're doing on there is not just I went on LinkedIn, but we will actually talk about different things that you can do over time that can build connections, but also build the relationship on LinkedIn. So that first myth we've already talked about. You need 500 connections. No, you need 30. Then we go to 50. Then we go to 100. And you will be shocked that is how fast you can get to 100. You do not need to know everyone personally that you invite on LinkedIn. If you do, it's of no use to you. All of those people are in your email and your phone. So why would you waste time being on LinkedIn to engage them when you're already engaging them? That just doesn't make any sense. So the whole idea of LinkedIn is to not only have people that you know, but now to build on that, to get people that you want to be linked to, that show up in your profile or show up in the, you might want to consider inviting these people, or past workers that you've known that you haven't seen in years. Well, you don't really know them well and personally anymore, so you shouldn't invite them. No, you absolutely should. You just don't spam them once you invite them. A lot of people think they'll be constantly spammed on LinkedIn. That's simply not true. I have a lot of connections. I mean, over 12,000 connections. And I've been on LinkedIn for a long time, since not too far after its inception. The spamming that I get as a business owner is limited to, hey, I'd like to connect with you so we can see what synergies we have. Of course, that's the, I'd like to sell you something. That's about all I get. Everything else are legit invites, congratulations on something, asking about services. It's not all spam stuff all day long. It's not that common. And most people aren't even going to get that. They're just not going to get much in the way of spamming. Most of my clients rarely, if ever, see that. So you can be assured that this is not going to take inordinate amounts of your time to answer spam emails or in-mails, as they call them on LinkedIn. A lot of people will say to me, well, you know, it's just like Facebook. It's nothing like Facebook. Facebook is about people oversharing constantly about things that we don't care about. I went to the Giant Pickle Factory yesterday. I did 5 loads of laundry today, which no one cares. But it is really interesting how people think that LinkedIn is going to be that too. And LinkedIn is a bit self-policing on that. You get a little too much of this personal information that people really don't want to know. And somebody will kind of say, hey, you know, that's not appropriate for LinkedIn. And it's not a LinkedIn employee. It's actually other members who they're linked to going, you know, this is not what we're on this venue for. This is a business venue. Please share things that are business minded. That's kind of a nice little self-correction that you couldn't even possibly do on a Facebook or an Instagram or a Twitter. The last thing I'll hear a lot of is having an account will somehow look suspicious to my company. No, it will look suspicious actually a lot of times when you don't have it, because a lot of companies will demand that you get one. And the reason they want you to have one is so their name appears next to your name somewhere in LinkedIn world and on SEO for Google, Bing, all of that. And the reason they're looking for that is it's more advertising for their company. Oh, they've got my company name there. Oh, all of this stuff is going to make me look good as a company owner, all of that. So they want their name mentioned more. What you put with it is what can create the problem. So we want to talk about how a job seeker works that's unemployed, how a job seeker works that's currently employed, how, and their boss doesn't know that they might be leaving, how a person who's just in general career management mode will maintain their LinkedIn, and how somebody as a business owner will maintain their LinkedIn. There's subtle differences between each, so you can make the biggest difference for your LinkedIn time. If you haven't signed up, please start now. I'm always shocked to find some of the people who I've known for many years in my industry who are not actively involved in social media. And I don't mean a personal Facebook account. I mean business Facebook. I mean the Twitter account that they're using for business. I mean LinkedIn. It's this misnomer that everybody's on LinkedIn. And yeah, there are 500 million plus people on LinkedIn, but that's all over the world. That means that with 8 billion people on the planet, there's a lot of people that aren't on LinkedIn. So don't think that somehow there's this magic that if I don't have it, it's all good, nobody cares, and oh, it's just, I'm just looking at this and thinking about it. I don't want to have that stress of creating one. Instead, dip your toe in and start and do little bits of this every day for a few days, and you will find you have a complete profile before you know it. You got 30 connections before you know it, and you're active on LinkedIn, which will give you more attention and make more people want to invite you too. So what are the stats on LinkedIn and its usage? Well, I don't like to give stats that I don't refer to as to where I got them. The over 500 million was actually from LinkedIn a while back. Percentage of recruiters that use LinkedIn to vet candidates, 94%. Not my number. You can see where I got it from. And it's citing a site that is giving specific information about statistics on LinkedIn and how that relates to a job search. For whatever reason, people love LinkedIn from the recruitment standpoint. And I'm not just talking about the external recruiters, the headhunters that might contact you. I'm talking about HR. The people who will be looking you up when they get your resume to see if you're really a person on there. And a recent article I wrote about deep dives that companies are actually doing into you online to see if they want to hire you. They want to see, does there happen to be a match between the information to a certain extent that I'm seeing on LinkedIn, while maybe not totally copied onto there from your resume and things like that, but do I see a connection there and a connection between what I'm reading on the resume and anything that comes up from other social media? Do I see a connection there that none of it's too strange or diverse, like this could be not a real person, or what they're trying to put forth professionally is not who they are personally, and that's going to create problems for our company? Companies think about that these days. We want to give them that information they really want, as far as this is who you're hiring, this is who I am, and you don't have to worry about me. Another thing is LinkedIn is popular with employers because it's a professional networking site. So a lot of people will actually have LinkedIn on their phones or their computers during the day. They'll see the minute you get an invite or they get an invite, boom, they've already answered you. I will send people a congrats for a promotion or a new job, and it seems like a few seconds later, I've already gotten a response from them. So a lot of people are actively engaged live on LinkedIn every day. That tells you that if they're actively engaged, probably HR, hiring managers, external recruiters are all involved too. And if you're a business owner, people just might use your services or your products. It's not just this unknown place, it's Jobcast, and I'm very familiar with them. They found that 93% of companies use LinkedIn to connect. They will actually connect with new hire talent on there. Some of my clients get invited by a recruiter that's internal to the company, or a human resources personnel, and maybe an HR generalist or the HR manager, or the actual hiring manager themselves, to connect via LinkedIn. Or, as I tell my clients, you can always invite them, and you'll be amazed at how often they will accept. Because if you can see that they've already looked at your profile, you can always invite them back. Another thing is that last part of that little paragraph. Just 14% of users reportedly check their account on a regular basis. Oh, I absolutely believe that's true. Based on how my clients will say, oh, I barely ever use my LinkedIn. They may even have a full profile, but they rarely go to it. That is a dangerous little game to play. Because again, when something happens and you need help, you're looking for a new job, you got to update information. Your LinkedIn needs to reflect that new information. Your LinkedIn needs to keep up with what's going on in your life. And on top of it, people need to see that you've been active on there, sharing an article, congratulating people on their promotions, things like that. And it's very simple to do. The next one is 73% of millennials found their job through social media. That's a huge number, 73%. And that is LinkedIn and Twitter. All day long, some of these large companies do nothing but put their job ads on through LinkedIn, through Twitter. They have links where you can go to it. There's jobs advertised on Twitter constantly by external and internal recruiters, sometimes not advertised anyplace else. So it is a small source of the hidden job market and something you should take advantage of just from that reason if you're a job seeker. From a business side, if millennials are looking for jobs on there, they're probably also looking at service providers on there. And if you're a one-person shop or a small company, you can create more focus for your organization via LinkedIn. LinkedIn has been around for a long time. People really started to hear about it, I'd say around 2010, 2011, it started to become really popular. But it's been around since 2003, and it is now owned by Microsoft. So it is a very high-end utilization of this product, and they continue to make improvement to it over time. So what's your first goal with LinkedIn? Number one, complete that profile, complete that profile, complete that profile. We want to think about things like, what version of my name am I going to use? Because what happens is people get on there and they do some strange things with their names. If you've done a check on yourself online and you find, like actually some of my clients have found in the past, that they have the same name as somebody who's in the press and not for a good reason of recent. They have a relative with a similar name, junior, senior, whatever, who's done something that they shouldn't. Porn star, I've had two of those clients who've had the same name as a porn star, and they do not have strange names, not at all. And then just people who are doing foolish things and they happen to share your name. You'll want to decide, just like you will on your resume, do you want to use a middle initial? Do you want to use a certification set of letters after your name? How you're associating your name on there will also be part of how they look you up online. Same with your resume. And we want those things to match. Sometimes it's just a nickname that's essentially in quotes. We just want to make sure that what people see is the same overall on the resume as it is on LinkedIn. And then when they check you out online, now they get you and maybe other people who have your same name but aren't doing goofy things with it. Password. Oh, okay. So I have had some of my clients give me the most hilarious passwords in the past. A couple of them have been because Karen said so, because they didn't want to do LinkedIn, but they knew they needed to. And I needed to change that password when I was done doing their LinkedIn. But I want you to think, let's have a good password. Things can be hacked and a lot easier than we think. Your password should not be 123 password. People go, well, I can't remember other things. Well, then write it down. Put it next to your computer at home. Who else is getting on there and looking at it? And if there is somebody else, put it someplace where you can easily find it and they can't. The other thing to consider is not to use kids' names, things that are easy for people to get into. LinkedIn, just like any other technology, does have the potential to be hacked, and you have the potential to be hacked over time. If you make it harder because you have multiple passwords, you switch them out once a year. You know, some people say, oh, well, do it every other month or whatever. Most people aren't going to do that, but they'll do it once a year. Your likelihood of having that information hacked has just gone down big time. So please, real passwords, numbers, letters, symbols, capital letters, small, lowercase, all that kind of stuff. And use some nonsense words. That's one of the best things to do, because it doesn't make sense when the hacker's trying to figure out stuff, a nonsense word that they wouldn't normally ever use. The next is a picture. Okay, so people go, well, I don't really want my picture on there. I don't like my pictures. Okay, we don't get to have that for LinkedIn. My husband doesn't like his pictures either, but he still has a picture on LinkedIn. We're getting ready to change that out. The picture is their first introduction to you. Let's face it, when they pop it up, what do they look at? They look at your picture. So, no selfies, because it looks like you're taking a selfie. Everybody's seen that AT&T commercial where the gal's doing this, you know, in the camera. No, we want a real picture that someone else has taken, that's not in a dark room. You know, this is not CSI Miami where all the lab stuff is done in a dark blue lab. Photos where you cut other people out. So there's always some arm, the Christmas tree, whatever in the background. That does not work. Old photos. I had a client using a 23-year-old photo. Doesn't look like you. Well, that's how they will remember me. Some of the people I'm going to invite. Sweetie, you look like an older version of you. You'll be fine. Just please use a picture and smile. Oh, and you probably read that and went, grouchy looking people. Look at a lot of people's pictures on LinkedIn. They're trying to be really serious, you know, and they look like they're mad. Nobody wants to engage with that person. And I don't want you to feel like, oh gosh, I put my picture on there and now people are telling me, oh, you know, shouldn't you smile or whatever? And some people will say, well, I don't like my teeth. That's not a problem. Don't worry about it. Just smile with your mouth. You don't have to smile with your teeth. You can just smile with your mouth. And that's the nice thing about smiling. It doesn't require certain things for you to do it. And some people will say, well, I'm awkward when I smile, or I feel awkward when I smile. Don't just have one picture taken. Have a good friend that takes good pictures, or a family member, or if you want to go get a pro headshot, however you want to do that, take a head and shoulders shot. You need to have something nice on for the head and shoulders shot. If you normally wear glasses, the glasses go in the picture. Okay. If you need to color your hair a little bit, color your hair a little bit. Put on some makeup, ladies. That is important. You know, we don't want to look all washed out in our picture. It doesn't mean we have to go, you know, like a Hollywood star. But what we can do is actually create an image of how people see us as they knew enough to put some blush on, a little bit of mascara, and some tinted lip gloss. I'm a girly girl, so I like my makeup, but I absolutely understand if people are not big on makeup. I have family and friends who aren't, but a little bit will make a big difference for you. It will lighten up your face. It will make you look more professional. And that's what we're going for with this. Because remember, this is a professional venue. Then have them take pictures of you in front of something interesting. Beautiful photography, beautiful pictures. I've had clients who have stood by leaning up against a building or whatever, or near a really interesting building, say like the Union Station downtown, and get a picture taken there. But they're far enough in front of it that there's a certain amount of the facade behind them, so you can tell. They've also done some of the most interesting pictures. One of my clients got their picture taken in a bathroom with the most beautiful tile work you've ever seen. And it worked. It was a great picture. Another thing, those bookcases will work, but the bookcase needs to have, you know, these bookcases are full of stuff, fine. You probably want someone that's a little sparser. And some of my clients, what they did, and so I now tell my clients to do this too, they went to a furniture showroom and got their picture taken in front of something there that was all decorated nicely by a professional decorator. So there's lots of different ideas for you to use. Mine has windows behind it that are fascinatingly wonderful. I mean, they're just really cool windows. They're up at a library branch up north of the river. And I think what makes them so interesting is not just because they were unique, but that the photographer kind of faded them out. So they have that kind of hazy look to them. They don't overwhelm the picture. And I think that was very helpful. You can do any or all of that. It's just get pictures taken and get several, not 2, not 5, I mean like 12. Then pick what you like. Because once you have a bunch of pictures taken, now you go, oh, no, I actually do like those too. And those get set aside as I'm going to pick one of those to be on LinkedIn. When you feel more comfortable with the picture because you had several taken, you're going to have a better feeling about putting your picture online. I spend a lot of time on picture because people put terrible pictures online. Everything from, well, I've got a tank top on and it, didn't have any straps on it. So this looks like they don't have any clothes on. A client with that one time. To people who have just really overly casual things on, all the selfies, all of that just does not look good. If you can, please spend just a little extra time and make that picture work for you. It's important. And you can share it on all your other social media. So it's one picture, does a whole bunch of jobs for you. Next is the heading. I prefer job titles with keywords and key phrases. So this is a place to shine because, again, it's right next to your name and your picture. So you want people to see, what do you do? But you can't just give them just a job title. We want to give them some other factors that play into what we can do, and they're wonderful keywords for a search. So you'll just see a couple of examples down there. For instance, like senior project manager. Senior project manager, that's their job title. But then we have, they're also a PMP. So they're a project management professional. They hold that certification. Lean Six Sigma, they also hold that certification. They deal with agile project management, which is a big buzzword. They do risk management in their job. They use Scrum, which a lot of people who do agile use Scrum. They use Jira and Mavenlink, which are technologies that relate to project management. You see the second one, it says administrative coordinator. That's obviously their title, their job title. But then they have reporting and process improvement and training and workflow and change management. You notice it doesn't say I'm an administrative coordinator and I'm doing typing and secretarial and stuff like that. It gives them real keywords and key phrases that somebody can hang on to and say, wow, they can provide a lot of benefit to our organization. And they need to be skills you really have. They can't just be things you make up that sound good, and things that you can speak to in detail. And when I do a client resume, I pick out the keywords and key phrases that go in there. But you've got, I think they've increased it to 120 characters that you can use for that area. That's a lot of different keywords and key phrases you can put in one area, along with quote unquote a job title. Another thing is to list your city or general area. Whenever I see United States, I think, spammer. That does not make me want to link back to you. You are not just in the United States. You are in a city and a state, someplace. And I'm not talking about traveling salespeople who go to different places. I'm talking, where do you live? And if you don't like to list the town, so let's say you live in a smaller town. Use Kansas City. It's near Kansas City. Oh, I'm going to use Kansas City. Oh, it's near Wichita. I'm going to use Wichita. That's just fine, because guess what? You can say Kansas City, Missouri area, and that works just fine. Now you've given them a general area of where you live, but you haven't had that, I don't want to list that town. It's very small. People won't ever know where it is. Olathe is a wonderful example for anybody out there who lives in Olathe, and you get this all the time. People who don't live anywhere near Olathe will mispronounce that name to the ends of the earth. I've lived here all my life, so I've always known there was an Olathe. But I've heard some really interesting pronunciations of that word over the years. So instead, my clients just put Kansas City, Missouri area. Industry. This is the one failing, I feel, of LinkedIn. I hate to say that. I just said that in public, and it's going to be on YouTube. Great. But I feel like their list of industries, not good. However, having said that, it doesn't mean that you can't find something that relates to you on it. And I would rather you go for more general than more specific, depending upon the industry that you're in. Mine, I think, is, professional training and things. They don't really have anything for what I do. And I'm not necessarily looking for them to have resume writer and career coaching, but I don't even know. My husband's a financial operations analyst. I don't even know what he really could put for his. I think he's just finance. So sometimes that's the kind of stuff you're going to end up with. But remember, sometimes your job and how you want that to look is different from the industry you work in. And so if you don't want to be too tied to your industry, because you want the ability to work outside of it, you might tie yourself more to an industry title that relates to your job title and what you want to do there. Not, for instance, somebody works in the auto industry as a salesperson. They may not want to identify it as the auto industry because they don't want to be pegged into that hole. Instead, they identify it as sales. The next thing is the summary or the About Us section, same section. It's right below that area that you have your picture in and everything. One of the nice things about having the About Us section is it's kind of like that personal marketing that you can do. It's the first person. You can use I and my and we and all of that in it, and nobody thinks it's weird. You're talking to people, if you want to, in third person, or you're talking to people in first person, and it's about the different things that you can provide. Whether it's some bullet points that you have of very definitive things you can do for a company from a cover letter, or it's a paragraph from a cover letter, or it's a few bullet points and a paragraph you created from your resume of some of the biggest and best stuff you've done, or you just wrote something that was original on your own and put it there that talks about why you love what you do, and it's interspersed with keywords and key phrases. It's a great way to get people to notice you a little bit more and think, wow, they're putting a personal touch there. And before you post it, have people who can spell read it. I know that sounds terrible, but we don't see our own mistakes. And that is across the board. I don't care who you are. So if you're not seeing a mistake, someone else who reads well and will take the time and can spell will see the mistake and it'll get corrected. I see mistakes in job title spelling, people's names and how they spelled it, and that wasn't purposeful, and all kinds of different things with their company name and all of that. And it just doesn't look professional. So we can eliminate that by making sure somebody else is reading some of this before we actually post it on. Another thing is how you list your employers and your experience. So first rule of listing this. Some of you are looking for work and you are not employed right now. Volunteer work done at least 4 hours a week can be considered like a little mini job. And it doesn't matter if you're helping out at your church, synagogue, or temple with administrative stuff. We can't really do Bible school and stuff like that for it. Though technically, if you're doing the adult stuff, you could say you were training people. But you need enough stuff that it really encompasses 4 hours a week, and the organization would actually give you a recommendation based on what you're doing. Habitat for Humanity, Restore Store, any of the animal shelters, which right now are very limited in what they offer on volunteer opportunities, but still, even being a foster parent to a pup or a kitty cat. That actually is something I used recently on a person's LinkedIn because they did not have a current job. And did that ever get them attention? People like, oh my gosh, you foster this kind of dog. So yes, there's a marketing purpose to it as well, but it gets you something current on there. And LinkedIn loves something current. Now, the same thing can go with part-time work options. A lot of people are so hesitant to put that on there. There is no shame in having a part-time job if you're trying to pay some bills. It used to be, and I'm talking about before 2006, before the economic recession of 10 years, that people said, they're working at McDonald's in between a job. I just don't consider that a very good role. I don't see how that would help us. Nowadays, HR and hiring managers go, they're willing to do whatever they can do to support their family and support themselves. I think that's the kind of people I'd like to have work for me. Finally, they got it. They got it. So don't be afraid to use it. And if it's a volunteer role, call yourself volunteer, whatever. Try to eliminate too much political, religious type of stuff that goes into that title, okay? Even for a church, a synagogue, a temple, a political organization, I would acronym the actual organization's name. I would not put the full name on there. I go to Calvary Lutheran Church. I would put CLC if I was doing a bunch of stuff like that. Do not enter the 1980s or the 70s. And if you can help it, the 90s. Every once in a while, there's a reason to do that. And usually there's a professional like me making the decision for you. Please do not just go visit it. Well, but I had that job all the way back into, 1995. And I think it's important. It does not apply to current. And I'm going to have a discussion with somebody about that tomorrow. I know you love that you did these and they're going to be on there without any dates, okay? But don't rely on that. That's 20-year-old experience. You don't really remember all that, okay? We need to focus on things 10, 15 years, that kind of time frame. And sometimes that means we take our company time and we shrink it. There are people out there, like my husband, who's been working for the same company, although it's been sold a bunch, been working for the same company for 20 plus years. So once it gets where it is too much, too long, well, then you shorten it and you go to maybe the next job up and you start there. And you don't necessarily have any dates for anything before it. People say, well, then they'll think I'm not telling the truth on my resume about how long I worked there. No, you're going to list the other job on there. You're just not going to put the dates. And you can do that on your resume and LinkedIn. You can have that in that section of summary where you talk about the things that you did for the company. What they don't know does not hurt them. Month year to month, you're on dates typically with companies, not year to year. Year to year creates questions. People go, well, I just don't see how that could be a question. Well, what does 2019 to 2020 mean? Does it mean 2 days, 2 months, or 2 years? And as many of my HR and hiring manager clients will say, make me guess, and you're not getting an interview. That's how important it is. Do not play games with that. Well, I can't remember what the dates are. Yes, you can. You don't need, I started November 25th, da, 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 da. You just need November 2019. Or if you've gone back a little ways, if you're off by a month, they're not going to freak out about that, okay? It's the people that go, you know what? I was unemployed for a while at that point. I'm going to add 6 months. That's bad. We don't want to do that. The next thing is to give some full information about the company name. Sometimes you even get a little logo that goes with the company name, which is nice. The city and state, and your actual job title. So let's talk about job titles for a minute. Job titles don't always reflect our job, do they? That is, even as a business owner, sometimes, you're president of the company. What does that mean? So we want to give them the job title the company identifies us with, especially if we're job seeking. This is particularly important when we're job seeking and we don't have a current job. We can put a slash and then put what we actually do in a title. I can't tell you how often I've had people, it's like, the king poobah of whatever, for the masses of something. I mean, seriously, some crazy, crazy job titles that make no sense. And then you put slash salesperson or sales executive, account manager, whatever. Companies will do goofy names. And there's one company in here in town, a large company that's quite famous for it. And you can't live on that name because it doesn't really apply to other organizations. And when companies are looking at it, the HR person or the hiring manager may not be able to relate to it. It's a little thing that you can do on your resume, though, regardless. If you're job seeking, doesn't matter if you're currently employed or not. Your resume isn't going to your current employer. Put that slash and put what the real job title is with it. It will help you not only in keywords and key phrases, but it will also help you relate, and that's important. Another thing is using limited bullet points on there. Oh my gosh. Yes, they give you 2,000 characters. Doesn't mean you have to use all of them. And it doesn't mean that sometimes that's not appropriate. If you've been with a company for a long time and you've kind of had the same job most of the time, but you just had a lot of different stuff you've done in it, that may make more sense for you. A lot of people, top 4 or 5 bullet points, sometimes just top couple. If you only had that job for a very limited time, it wasn't your most thrilling job ever, and you just want to put 1 bullet point for it, do it. That's okay. And it's okay to just have that on your resume sometimes too. Always think, though, keywords and key phrases. What's going to get me the biggest bang for my buck? Use those bullet points wisely. Ensure they're packed with info that can attract somebody. And also, when the recruiters are doing their searches online and stuff, you come up. Skills, you can have up to 50 of them. And those are keywords and key phrases. So let's go back to the administrative coordinator. All those words that were up top in their listing, guess what goes down in the skills area? However, now these are places where additional keywords and key phrases can go that apply to their job. Microsoft Word, not Microsoft Office. I get it. People love to use Microsoft Office. That is a generic term. It can mean anything from the top 4 programs of Word, Excel, PowerPoint, and used to be Outlook, now it's Notes, or OneNote, as they call it, to all of this additional stuff with Access. We got, let's see, SharePoint. We have all kinds of different things like Teams now. We also have Visio. I mean, there's just a boatload of Microsoft programs. Don't make them guess. Instead, use that wisely. I use Microsoft Word, Microsoft Excel, Microsoft PowerPoint, and Microsoft Access. Now you got 4 keywords and key phrases that are potentially in their stuff. And guess what? You think, you know what? I'm going to trade out Word for something else because they're going to kind of expect if I know PowerPoint, Excel, and Access, I can do Microsoft Word. That's fine. Go ahead and put something else in there. It does make a difference. It's using, again, that space wisely to communicate the things that you can do. And sometimes it's as simple as there's a couple of different keywords and key phrases that can be used for the same thing. Don't be afraid of that. Don't be afraid of certain acronyms. OSHA 30 is an acronym with a number. It's a training and it's a certification that people receive. You absolutely want that in those keywords and key phrases under the skills section. And if you question on how you find those, there's 2 ways to do that for your resume and ultimately for your LinkedIn. Number 1, Google keywords and key phrases for and put the general job title of what you do and watch a whole bunch of stuff populate. Then check out the ads for what you're going for as far as how that relates and start looking what is repeating over and over in job ads that you see besides Microsoft Office. You want to look for those different skills. Look for those different certifications that you didn't think, I didn't even put that in my resume. People forget a lot of stuff that could go in their resume. And part of it is you get this 1-page myth, which is not true. You can have 2 pages. No one dies, I promise. Most resumes are 2 and 3 pages. And I can cite a whole bunch of studies that show that the preference by hiring managers By over 2/3 are 2 and 3 page resumes. But it is very much important that when you're putting that information onto LinkedIn and putting it in your resume, that you have the key phrases and keywords that you're comfortable with. You can explain, you can talk about what you do. And sometimes you have the blessing of going, I didn't even know I did that. That's always a nice little surprise. Next is endorsements. And that's in the skills section. And this is where you would endorse other people, or people are endorsing you for a skill. And sometimes it'll pop up and say, well, somebody endorsed you for the skill. And my clients will forever and a day just click on and say, oh, yes, I'm just going to take that. Does it apply to what you want to do? Oh, it's in an older industry and it doesn't have anything with what you're doing now. You know, we need to get rid of that. And I'll have to go into the skills section and delete all of those. It needs to be applicable to what you're doing now, where you want to go, how you want to promote yourself. And whether you're a business owner, and unfortunately, a lot of your stuff is from prior to business, and that doesn't apply to your current business, or you're a job seeker looking for a new job, and your very last job applies, but the 1-3 back doesn't. Don't let people influence your decision on what you put in there based on they just endorsed you on it. Endorsements, anybody can endorse anybody. So frankly, they can have no understanding of what you do for a living and endorse you, okay? That means that those aren't worth a ton. So I would rather you have good keywords and key phrases and not worry so much about the endorsements, because ultimately over time, people you know will endorse you for the skills and the different things that you put under that section that really do apply to you and they're recent. And over time, you'll change things out. That should be how it works. Next, education, typically no dates. We don't put dates on it for a very specific purpose unless we recently graduated. And that's because of age discrimination. So we don't want them to know that we graduated in 1990, you know, with a degree. So they don't need to know that, because they're immediately going to add. People who can't figure out 50% off at the grocery store will have amazing ability to add your age, okay? So let's not play that game. Why should you still list it? Well, if you pursue but didn't complete a degree. And a lot of people say, well, I only had 2 semesters there, but you still pursued a degree while you were there. Well, yeah, I went after a Bachelor of Science in accounting, but you know, I wasn't as interested and my grades were starting to fall a bit, and I left college. You're still an alumni, bet you're still getting things from them going, can you give us money? So congratulations, you can now use that. Pursue 2 semesters of coursework towards Bachelor of Science Accounting. Congratulations. Sometimes you didn't pursue anything. Instead, you went after general coursework. Say that. Pursue 2 semesters of general coursework. It's okay to do that. And people go, oh, I can't put that on there. Yes, you can, because it quote unquote clicks that keyword or key phrase of I went to the university. And there is something about that in people's minds that they say, ooh, oh, they went to the university. Doesn't even have to be necessarily a degree. And we're learning more and more today that degrees are not nearly as important as we thought they were, unless you want to be a doctor or an engineer. Next is must list the actual degree. Now, if you got a degree, please put the real degree. I have people that, they like to manipulate the information and make it sound different towards where they're going, or they just have no idea what they got. Now, on a personal level, I go, you spent 4 years there and you don't know what you got. Know what you have. Go get your degree and type that in, okay? Don't have the university get a call to prove whether you were there or not, or that email inquiry, and they're like, but that's not the degree they received. Now you look like a liar. LinkedIn should match what we have on our resume, and that should match what the university has for us. Not what you want it to be, what it really is. And sometimes people say, yeah, but I got my degree in home economics. There was a famous gubernatorial candidate several years ago who said their degree was in economics, but it was home economics. I get it. Maybe that's not what you want to put out there, but that's what you got, okay? My degrees are in vocal performance, and education, and specifically music education, as in choral instructor. And yes, those do actually have to do from the education perspective and from the performance perspective, and doing stuff like this and not being too shy to do it with what I do. But the music part doesn't. It just doesn't. I share that on the side in a professional manner, but that's on the side. And same for my husband. But I don't shy away from telling people what my degree is. I'm not ashamed of it, and you shouldn't be either. Next, honors and organizations. If you participated in something that was an honor that you received during college, or an organization that's important for them to know about, list it. It doesn't mean you have to give dates. Whether it's a fraternity, a sorority, and sometimes it's a professional fraternity or sorority. It can also be those little honor organizations that each university has of its own. Put that on there. Somebody who is an alumni of that university or that college will know and go, oh, well, I was in that too. That can create a connection right there. Well, I want to help that person. They're looking for this job. They need some new business, whatever. I could help them. Those little things make that big of a difference. Now there's special sections they have, and people don't use these. And I really want you to use them. Number one, organizations and volunteer causes. Now, volunteer causes is kind of on its own. It's got its own thing. Do not get overly political. I'd rather you acronym the name, religious, etc. People go, well, I have to put this out there. Da, 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 da. And sometimes the acronym is too much. And instead, you need to call it something else. People make decisions about you based on sometimes stupid things. Okay. I'm just going to put that out there. You are doing something wonderful. The work you're doing is great, but they're seeing something else. Eliminate that possibility. People go, well, I don't want to work for them. You know what? Once you're there, I don't care. I'll have people, they have acronyms, say a synagogue name or a temple name or a church name. And when they get in the interview, they ask them what that is. And the person says, oh, it's this church or whatever. They don't care usually once you're in the interview. But it's something about that initial look before you actually get in there that can create an issue. So just be careful, be mindful of what you're putting on there and how that might appear to somebody else. And it could be based on just negativity in the news. We just want people to look at us for us and not make judgments that are, quite frankly, a lot of times foolish. Okay. Organizations, same thing. However, organizations are more on the professional level. So National Association of Professional Sales Personnel or whatever, there's all kinds of stuff out there. American Management Association, Human Capital Institute, American Medical Association, American Marketing Association. There's a lot of AMAs out there. There's also Society for Human Resource Management. There's just a boatload of stuff out there. For every job that there is out there, there's an association serving it. And as proof, I joke with people that there's a couple of companies here in town that will come to your backyard and take away the things that your doggies and kitties leave out there, particularly the doggies. And they belong to the National Association of Animal Waste Management Professionals. So for every job there is out there, there is an association serving it. What we want to do is not go back too far, though. And sometimes people will say, well, I gave up my membership 2 years ago. That's still applicable, especially if it's something that relates in any way or it just looks good. Project Management Institute, quite frankly, doesn't matter what your job is, it'll look good. But maybe 2 years ago, you gave up your membership. Okay, but you can still put that on there. What we're trying not to do is go back again into the 90s. If we haven't really belonged at all for the last 7 to 10 years, there's another thought process that goes with this as far as board memberships, committee memberships, and different things that we could be involved in at a higher level, either on the volunteer or the professional organization side. I would not shy away from putting those on there. Again, if you need to manipulate the name of it a little bit, go ahead. I belong to the parish administration council at our church. Makes no sense to people. Finance and facilities does. People understand what that means right away, but parish administration does not. Next, languages. Okay, I have a client. He speaks fluent Spanish, Portuguese, he's from Brazil originally, and English. And trust me, he speaks fluent English. I have talked to him many times and done stuff for him over a multitude of years. He speaks all three of these heavily, fluently. He hires Spanish-speaking customer service teams on a larger scale now. And he said, I always put in the ad, must speak fluent Spanish, written Spanish, a plus. So don't have to have the written Spanish. And he said, there's a good portion of people that when they come in for the interview with myself or one of my managers, we will say something to them immediately in Spanish, and they will just look at us. But they will say they speak it fluently. And then out will come another sentence in Spanish, something simpler, and the person still can't respond back. And I know there's people on the other side of this camera right now laughing at this because they've seen this before. Guess what? If you can't really speak that language fluently, please do not tell them you can't. There are different levels of fluency. And because I can say, wo ist das Flughafen, which is where's the airport in German, does not mean I speak German fluently, okay? I used to speak it in a more fluent manner, conversational, limited, back in the day. Not even close now. So I wouldn't even bother to try to tell anybody I can speak it in any way, shape, or form. If that's you, please just say no, okay? Be honest with this because it can come back to bite you. People will put that in their profiles and people go, oh, I have a friend who does this. Can you say this in it? And you can't. You don't look very good. And he hears on a regular basis when people interview and they can't speak the language at all when they're spoken to in it. They'll go, well, I took it in high school. You're 47. You don't speak it anymore. So fluency, be truthful. Certifications are wonderful. They should, however, be applicable to where you're going. Excuse me as my lip floss peels off. It should be part of where you're going or something that relates to any industry. Again, project management professional, we're going to go back there. That is one of those certifications that anybody can get their head around and go, oh, that's so cool you have that. Certain certifications like Lean Six Sigma, that kind of stuff, everybody loves. Doesn't matter what industry you're in. They may not use it at all, but they think it's cool that you have it. But certain certifications and licensing, if you will, they don't necessarily apply, or they're older. A lot of clients, especially techies, who have some very old certifications that they really shouldn't be listing because they make them look dated in their experience. So be very careful what you list as far as your certifications. And are those certifications something you have to keep up with? I have certain certifications. Every 3 years, I have to prove I'm worthy of continuing to have that certification, okay? Don't list stuff and then not identify that maybe it's not current. It's okay if you still want to have it on there for the keyword, key phrase stuff, but be honest. The next thing is honors and awards. Be honest here too. That is something that a lot of sports coaches in the college realm have been in trouble with several times over the past 20 years. Notre Dame being one of the big ones. When originally Lou Holtz left, there was somebody who maybe wasn't quite as forthcoming with some of the stuff on their resume as to what they really did. That included places worked and honors and awards. And that's really a shame because the national news people in sports checked him out. And then there was a resignation and another person hired. It doesn't have to be that way for you. And it doesn't mean the person was evil. They weren't trying to do anything bad. That it always worked for them. They'd had it on their resume. And sometimes for people, after a while, something becomes, oh, you know, this is just part of me. This is my truth now. But it wasn't. And I never want that to come back to bite somebody. An error of I'm lying. It's not just an error of, oops, I, put an extra zero there because I wasn't paying attention, but you just absolutely lied on your resume, said you had a degree when you didn't. That's the number one thing that people will do. An award, a certification, messed with timelines by 2 years. Had a client that did that one time when they came to me. That kind of stuff will get you fired. And it can get you fired 5-10 years down the road. And we hear about things like Yahoo a few years ago. There was just another CEO of a company recently that came back to bite them as well. Don't lie. Do not lie. It will come back on you. When I say I was published in Forbes Online, I was actually published in Forbes Online. It was 3 different quotes, bigger quotes, and I'm getting ready to send them an article. Finally, I dipped my toe in, and it's Forbes Online for Forbes Coaches, Forbes Coaches Council. That's an honest statement, as opposed to, oh, I was published in Forbes magazine. No, I wasn't published in Forbes magazine. Okay, Forbes Online, totally different. Next, projects, publications, test scores, courses that you've taken that you want people to see that are maybe outside the realm of what you would have done in a college or university setting, or they're just extra and they look really good and they're full of keywords and key phrases, or patents that you hold. Surprising number of people out there are part of patent. You can add that. Again, think, does it apply to where I'm going? But also, I want you to consider if it's something that adds to your story. Are we just bulking up stuff, or is it adding to the story? Because a lot of times certain aspects of these, they're not going to be on your resume. That's why LinkedIn is not the same as your resume. There's add-on information on your resume. It's not on LinkedIn, and vice versa. This gets you where you're going with having enough information on there, but not overwhelming people. And sometimes I have to limit clients and say, look, after a while, they're just not going to look anymore. It can be so overwhelming and so much information, they just don't want to see it. I actually hold 17 separate certifications in my industry. I do not list them all. People would just glaze over. It's bad enough that there's like 8 of them. So please don't overwhelm people with information. Recommendations. Oh, people don't use recommendations and they have to. And they don't all have to be, oh, I got them in 2020. I don't know too many people got any in 2020 because we weren't even asking. But you're darn sure in 2021, I've started asking again. I got 2 people writing stuff right now. Here's the thing. A recommendation is just that. It's an actual person attesting to the fact that you can provide a certain service, a benefit to an organization, a product, whatever it is that you do as a business owner, as a career person, either one, that you're very good at something or several things, okay? And they're putting their name to it, all right? You want to put your name to that. You want to have that feeling when you write for somebody else. And you offer to do vice versa. You don't just, it's really nice that they wrote me one. No, you write them one back, unless you're like, oh, Typically, that's not the case. And then you may not want to accept the recommendation for a variety of reasons. But typically, somebody writes your recommendation, that's like fine gold. It's like getting a referral as a business owner or a referral as a job seeker to a specific job and the person who's hiring for it. That could be the very difference that gets you that job, gets you that client. A lot of my clients, they come through referrals, and it'll be down the line. It'll be, I worked with the father-in-law, and now I'm working with the son-in-law, and now I'm working with their friend, and now I'm working with the friend's brother, and now I'm working with that guy's aunt. That happens all the time, and it comes through referral. Recommendations have a similar impact for you, and they should have enough information to tell a story, to tell why you're good at what you do, but not overwhelm people. So a couple paragraphs. Think a couple paragraphs. Another thing is dealing with groups. So a lot of people belong to groups online, and a lot of people don't. They're like, oh gosh, I get spammed in my email box with them, and I'm so tired of all these. I get it. There's a lot of groups out there. And Kansas City is delightfully rich in groups. You just go to the groups area and type in Kansas City. There's just a ton that comes up. Some large cities, that you would not think, or similar size to Kansas City, they hardly have any groups. I mean, it's almost impossible to find groups with them. It's like we got 5. I'm shocked. Kansas City, we love our groups. And we've got everything from the Kansas City Chiefs and Royals and the soccer team to stuff that has to do with being an alumni in the area, stuff that has to do with being an expert on a certain area like accounting or finance or insurance or whatever. There's hundreds. There's hundreds of them. I think there's even one for RC cars. I'm sure there's one for robotics now. There's stuff for women in tech. There's stuff for people who are just, looking to get with younger professionals out there. So you got a lot of different stuff going for you. Join some groups. In particular, join local groups, okay? There's a reason for this. It's a must-use part of LinkedIn from the standpoint that these people often know of jobs or other business opportunities that are out there for you. You wouldn't find out otherwise. It's kind of internal to that group. There's also that issue with the more international groups, and it doesn't mean you can't belong to a larger alumni group or the Human Capital Institute group or something like that. You can absolutely do that. But certain of the groups that always have that international flavor to them and they have 200,000 members, there's a whole lot of stuff coming at you that you just don't hear about. Whereas a group that's more local, there's a lot more potential for you to share with people who will interact with you. It might have 100 people in it. It might have 14,000 people in it, but like Link to KC does. But you're still getting a lot of value from it. And there's jobs advertised in there that often won't be advertised in the traditional manner on LinkedIn. That's part of the hidden job market, people. I had a client just recently, the job that they're now having him fill out paperwork today, he found it on LinkedIn. It did not come through, I applied through LinkedIn. It came through a group, okay? Never know where that opportunity is going to come for you. They are not only good for resources for jobs and potential business, but also industry trends and things, links to articles that you probably should read and be able to talk about in an interview. So it's a lot of additional information that you wouldn't have normally. And any of that allows you to be more of an expert in an interview when talking to a client. There's always something more to learn. One of the things I love about my industry is there's always something new. Something new to learn, some new technology, how the scanning systems are looking at something different now, whatever it is, there's always something new. And I spend my day not only working with clients, but keeping up on that stuff. That's something you should do, especially as a job seeker, because guess what? You can talk about in an interview. So you look current in what's going on. The company may not be using all the current stuff. Hey, we're still using XP, but at least you're current on what's going on. And that looks good to them. Next is account management. And this is just overall account management. You can find that under the picture at the top or next to it, depending upon how it shows up on a phone, a tablet, or a big computer. So I got all kinds of things, but just look for where it says account and go play with it. Privacy settings are probably the biggest. And the one that usually my clients will play with is the one where it says any changes you make to your profile will be public or private. Make it private unless you're just dying to have any change you do. Everybody know about it. So you can now have it, all these messages coming to you. Because sometimes you just get a promotion and it's not a traditional promotion. It's like, we gave you a promotion, but we're not paying you anymore. And you got extra stuff, but your job title changed. And you just go and change it so it's current on there. You probably don't want 45 people emailing you through LinkedIn through their in-mail system, so you have to respond to it. That's a nice little privacy setting to have. Share your connections. If you're connected to somebody and you know them, so this would kind of go along with you actually would want to know this person and can speak to their abilities, then you can also recommend them as a connection to somebody. I would not do that for just anybody who's your connection. People will write me sometimes and I say I reserve that for clients and people that I know well, and that I really have an understanding of their experience and how it relates and why I would be recommending. And not the recommendation on LinkedIn, but actually recommending to a connection. You should connect with them, okay? However, you can always have your connections in that public setting so somebody can go in that is your connection, direct first degree connection, and can go look at them. If they want to go reach out to them, that's okay. Manage your public profile settings. There's several things you can do. And you'll see over to the right-hand side on a big screen, there'll be something about manage public profile settings and customize your URL. If you click on that, it will take you to another page. And you can see where you can type in and get rid of the www.linkedin.com/in/ your name with all kinds of symbols and letters after it. You can personalize your URL to your name unless it's taken. So maybe you use a middle initial with it, or your full middle name, or your nickname with it. Or, for instance, I had a client, they had a very common name, and I'm just going to say, well, Jim Smith PMP, boom, got that one. Play with it. You'll be surprised how often, and I am shocked to this day, how often somebody with a very common name will get their name. It's not weird I got my name. There were 3 people in the country that had my name, actually 3 people in the world that I know of that have my name. My husband has a very unique last name, and instead of my maiden name of Russell, which is just everywhere, this is not a common name. I had no idea what effect that would have on personal branding going forward, but I'm very delighted that I took his name. What that means is that because one of them passed away not too long ago, one of them is not very active, anything I do with Karen Sillens pretty much is mine. I own my name as a website. I don't do anything with it. I just own it so nobody can do anything silly. I also have, all kinds of things personalized to Karen Sillens or Karen Russell Sillens. It gives you a certain power of your name. And I really highly advise that you personalize your URL. It looks good. You can put it on a personal business card that you hand out for your job search. You can use it on all kinds of different stuff. So personalize that URL. Don't have it be Jim_Smith 235, exclamation point 789 ABC. Don't have it be that. That looks bad. And people will put that on a business card. It's like, no, you can personalize it. It says it on that page. The other thing you can do is set your settings of what people see. You may say, okay, you know what? I don't mind if somebody sees my most current job fully and my education, but I only want them to see titles on the jobs before that if they're coming in from, not being a first degree connection. And so you may hide certain things. Like if you're a connection to me, ask to be a connection to me, I will let you see everything, and my connections can see it all. But people who are second, third, fourth degree connections, they can't see any of that now. You can control what they do or don't see. I actually have had some clients who've been stalked. In the current, we did hide their picture. Only their direct connections could see it. Now, you need to be currently stalked, okay? Not something from 25 years ago. But this is a problem for some people today. And, I come from a family of law enforcement, military, and medical professionals. So obviously I'm a resume writer and a career coach now. And that is something I'm very aware of and the dangers of it. So be sure that, if you have an issue like that, you protect yourself. Maybe you use a nickname, things like that. Beyond that, use your stuff. It's out there already, whether you like it or not. And that's the other thing. And people will say, well, my stuff isn't out there. Rarely is somebody off the grid. Rarely. They don't realize that they're out there someplace, and I'll go type stuff in and go, hey, there you are. And they're just shocked. They had no clue. They're listed with their company, their address is out there, all this kind of stuff. So you're out there, but you can control how you show up. The contact info button, you want to make sure there's a phone number if you want people to be able to contact you. And you can make that public with the LinkedIn InMail address. And also, well, it's not email, but it's actually your LinkedIn address, if you will. So they can go to your profile, but also so they can potentially contact you by email. I have an AOL. Yes, I do. Don't be laughing on that other end. That I've used since 99. And yes, it still says you've got mail and it answers. I use that to funnel everything into Karen at Career and Resume, contact at careerandresume.com, info at careerandresume.com, except Gmail. Gmail doesn't play with anybody. So I have to go to Gmail separately. But I have several emails and I only want to manage them in one account a day. I don't want to go to 14 accounts every day. So everything flows in there. And AOL, believe it or not, has a great filing cabinet that I can keep track of all kinds of stuff for taxes and, client stuff. And it's hugely helpful. Yes, really, AOL. Had 3 millennials in the last year join AOL because of this. The thing that gets people, though, is sometimes if they see something like that, they may make a judgment about you. If I were you as a job seeker, and you have an AOL or an old Yahoo or Hotmail or something like that, you might want to upgrade, not get rid of that account, but go get a Gmail. Everybody's got a Gmail. Go get a Gmail, and please don't put your birth date in it. I don't know what this obsession is with using your birth date. Use the last 4 digits of your phone number or something with your name. No cutesy stuff. No, I literally saw a designer license plate, see my nipple ring once. None of that. No. You want an email that they can go, oh, that makes sense. I don't know what those numbers mean, but that's okay. Then use that on your LinkedIn for your email contact. Now that means you're going to have to go in and check it, or you may have another email that's perfectly normal that's part of Gmail, or it's a bigger thing, Outlook, whatever. Use that, okay? It does make a difference. Some people make judgments, and I always have to say, yes, I have an AOL, and explain and everything. That's why people contact me, Karen at careerandresume.com. Next, use it for free. Okay, they will bother you on a regular basis to upgrade. I've never paid. 12,000 plus contacts, people. You invite me, say you're at my seminar, I will connect with you too. I have presidents of companies, HR people, other coaches. I'm pretty picky about who I actually will take. And there are some weeks I will get 100 plus connection requests, and I will only take 20 of them. And then there's lots of weeks I'll get, 50, and pretty much all of them are great connections, and all of them I accept. It just depends on how active I am on it that week, and the same will go for you. But I don't have to pay for that, and I'm not going to pay for that. And the reason I don't pay is so I can prove to people that you don't have to pay to have good connections on LinkedIn. And think about it. If I've been on there since, 2005 or so, that's why I have a lot of connections. I'm highly active on it, and I've built it over the years. If you have been on since 2005 and you were highly active as well, you'd have a bigger set of connections. Always send personal invites when you're able to. Sometimes you just send, especially people you really know, you don't have to worry about that as much. But where it says, would you like to personalize this, write them something, and not one of these things, hey, I'd like to connect with you, so I feel we have some synergies. Oh gosh, they're a salesperson. No, don't do that. Instead, write them and say, hey, I noticed that you're a fellow alumni of or you're in the same group as I'm in, or whatever, and connect with them that way. Or I'm an inventory manager just like you are. And I always like to connect with other inventory managers, and on occasion, maybe share an article or an idea. That's going to get you much further than playing the game of, I want to expand my contacts and stuff like that. Don't play that. That's what all the salesy people are doing. And I'm not talking about a traditional salesperson. I'm talking about the few spammers that are out there. Fellow alumni, former current colleagues, those who worked or work for former and current employers, connections of first degree connections, and email contacts, all of those people can be connections. And all of those people, with the exception of the people who kind of work for former, and connections of first degree connections, You already know them. You may have known them 10 years ago, but you still know them. And that initial connection, you can also email and say, hey, I saw you were on here. We worked together at XYZ company. I was so happy to see you on here. I miss our lunches, that we used to go out and go to Taco Tico or whatever you want to say. And then tell them that you are, wanting to connect with them on LinkedIn and hope they're doing well. Uncle, I'm looking for a job. Hey, I've opened this new business. Can you send me some people? Don't do that to people. Start a conversation with them. Chances are they're going to respond back. You can always write and ask how their family's doing, what's going on. Hey, you notice they've changed companies. What do they think of their new company? That kind of stuff. They'll respond back. They'll ask you about you. Now you can say, oh, I finally did it. I opened my own company, or I took the plunge and went and tried to do a new career and I love it. And I'm, now looking outside of my current company for a new job. Some of the leadership's changed and I want to look outside. You can do that, but you've established enough of a connection now. They're like, I remember them. They ask about me first. I can respond back to them. These people will often help you. But you can't just start out with, what can I get from this relationship, okay? Number one rule of networking, whether on LinkedIn, Facebook, in person, on a Zoom call, however that works, is it's not about you. And if you keep that in mind, how you can help somebody else, you will always benefit in your networking. It may not come right away, but it will come. If you think about what can I get out of it, you will not benefit in your network. Okay. I cannot emphasize that enough. It is not about you, it's about them. And then if you give them your time and attention, a referral, a tip, a hint, a lead, they want to help you. Okay. Suggest connections to people. Never be afraid to do that. And peep your stalkers. You'll see people will look at your profile and you're like, ooh, I think they'd make a great connection. I will send them something back and invite them to connect. You know what? About probably 90% of the time they connect. It works great. Now, if you look at their profile and go, no, okay, I get that, but let's be careful. Ferreting out spammers. Spammers, if you're a business owner, right away they're going to say B2B lists, I help you with social media marketing, whatever. And a lot of times their pictures are either of people who look like they're 10, or they're people who are a little too beautiful. So, they're probably not real, okay? Or if they are, they're going to just bother you a lot. I would not connect with them. I also won't connect with people who have a lot of questions in their profile. Things don't match. There's a whole lot of people out there that will say they're in the military. They're not. I have a huge problem with that, from just bunches of family members who've served in wartime and died in their service. It's a big no-no. They'll say they're a police officer. They'll say they're a firefighter, that kind of stuff. You need to look at their information and see if it looks like it's real. Another one is the oil and gas industry. People like they're rich, and then you get that in-mail that says, hey, I really like your smile. I get a lot of those on Facebook from back in the day. But every once in a while, I get one on LinkedIn. And they fooled me. They had a good profile that made sense. Somebody actually spent the time to fill it out. And, I say, thank you. My husband thinks so too. And usually that's the end of that conversation. And if it's not, then they're about to go away and be reported. You can report people for this kind of stuff. Don't hesitate to do it. It doesn't happen very often. Again, 12,000 plus connections, and it doesn't happen to me very often, so it's not going to happen to you. The big thing is to look at their profile. Does it make sense? Is there weird education in comparison to what they do? Do the recommendations have a different name of a person on there? I just saw one recently. It was a man, supposedly, and yet the recommendations for a woman. She is but it was a guy. And it was very clearly a man. And he, Mr. The other thing is all lowercase in their name. Some people like to do that, but that's a bad thing to do. And I will tell my clients, don't ever do that. That's almost, I'd say 70%, 80% spammers, potential spammers, fake profiles, things like that. So those are the kind of things you look for. So you're not linking to people who are going to waste your time or you feel you have to report. And again, you're not going to get a ton of those. You do want to be careful. Never spam anyone yourself. Don't immediately come back to them and ask them for something. This is always going to be for you one of the best things that you can do. If you don't spam people, if you don't give them a whole bunch of stuff that they don't need to know about, and you don't ask them for things when you haven't developed a relationship yet, that's going to be a connection that you can build over time. Sharing articles, things like that. Should you post your resume on LinkedIn? Not if you're currently working. I would say no. But if you're a job seeker, you can. You can have it out there as a job seeker that's not currently employed. You can have it if you want for people to pluck off of there. That's up to you. But please do not put it on there if you're at a current company and that company doesn't know you might be looking, or you're a business owner and your business maybe is not doing so well and now you're looking for a job. You got your resume out there. People are like, is he in business or not? Okay. Don't give them questions. Your homepage is the last thing I want to talk about as far as what you can do that will help you. This is being an active participant. Number one, articles. You're going to see all kinds of articles that people share and stuff. And you're going to go, that's a great article. Just share it. Like it. Whatever you want to do. But it shows activity on LinkedIn. You can also comment on things. Do not put real negative comments on things. Some people just can't help themselves. And, that's not a good thing. Okay. Either like, a positive comment, or share. Your LinkedIn stats are also on that page up in the left-hand, towards the left-hand corner. And you can see how many people you're linked to and how many people looked at one of your most recent articles, the one that's probably been looked at the most, stuff like that. You can publish too, okay? On any social media, you can be one of two things. An information sharer, and that was my dog, if you just heard that sound in the background. He wants to come in and spam the camera. And she's big, so she could do it. But this is really important that you understand that you don't have to write content. Some people are like, oh, I can't. I don't like writing. I don't want to do that. That's okay. You can just share. But you can be an information creator too. And if you have great stuff that you know that people have really liked over the years, that you can write about your industry and related areas to your industry, then you might do little blog posts on LinkedIn. You wouldn't even have to have your own blog. You could just do LinkedIn and have your own blog on LinkedIn. People go see it there. It's a great way to dip your toe into that as well. Connections, work anniversaries, promotions, new jobs, even birthdays. Now, I'm not a big one that goes in and wishes people happy birthday on LinkedIn. I'm more of a Facebook person for that. But work anniversaries, promotions, and new jobs, I will absolutely a lot of times go in when I can, and they'll pop up a thing. You'll just say congrats, and it will say congrats on your new job, or congrats on your promotion. You just click send. That's all you do. It's great. And if you really know the person, personalize a little bit. People love to get congrats like that. And they find a lot of them will thank you for it too. Be a participant, not an observer. And I wrote that in a recent article for IAAP and for LinkedIn. You don't want to be that person who just puts maybe a picture on there because you decided to go ahead and do it. And then, well, I put my current job and my education on there, and then I've never visited it again in the last 3 years. Participate. How much should you be on there? I would say, 10 minutes, 2 to 3 times a week is more than enough. And for job seekers, you might be on there a little bit more. Business owners might be on there a little bit more, but we're not talking about 3 hours at a time. That's not how this works. You're spending too much time on LinkedIn if you're on there like that, unless you're writing some content. Share great news from your company, and that includes those that are employed by somebody else and those that have their own company. invite people to an event, share an article, congratulate a colleague. All these different things keep you active. You want a robust use, and that's my dog again. She's wanting in here real bad. You want to be able to build a robust group of connections. One of the ways you do that is to make sure that you do these little things. And then if you do need help, they see you all the time on there. They see you post an article or whatever. Now you're not a stranger to them. The likelihood of them helping you is significantly more. Check your LinkedIn several times a week. If you're proactive and you keep doing stuff on there, it will make a difference. Your job title changes, change your job title out, all that kind of stuff. It is a use it or lose it tool, meaning it won't do you any good if you don't actually use it. So my dog is telling me that I'm done now. One of the dogs. And so I will say that at this point, I am at a good stopping point. If you have any specific questions, please feel free to ask. I am happy to answer any questions at this point.
All right, thank you, Karen. We did have a few questions pop up in the chat, so I'll read off the first one. I received a severance package at the end of 2019 and have obtained a PMP certification, taken other online courses, and prepared the house for care of an elderly relative, but I've not yet found a job. How should I describe on LinkedIn the 14 work gap?
When you are taking care of a relative, when you are a caregiver, that's a job. I've done it, took care of my mom. I know what it entails. And it usually means you're involved in all their doctor's appointments, their medication, their finances, all of that kind of stuff, making their meals. And it may be going in and out of their house, or it sounds like in this case, they were in your home or you were in their home. That needs to be communicated as a caregiver job. And it's just one bullet point. Talk about those different things that you did. It's a current job, but current should be taken with a grain of salt. Have an end date, because you don't want them to think that that's going to continue to interfere. So, January of 2021. And that way they see a more current job on there. They understand why you took the break, and you don't have to go into a big explanation now. And that is huge. So many people are caregivers, and it takes so much of our time. You can leverage that when you have a break in your career. I had somebody, he was an executor of a will or a trust that was quite extensive. It took a ton of his time, 30 hours a week. That's a huge amount of time. We use that. Okay. But volunteer work can also work, all of that. And don't be afraid to mention in an interview, hey, you spent that time wisely getting your PMP. Also mention it in the cover letter.
All right, thank you, Karen. Our next question is, how often should recommendations be updated? What's the suggested number to shoot for?
So I tell people we don't want 700 recommendations on there. Nobody's going to read them. But if you can get 1 or 2 a year or every other year, that's good, because you're not trying to have 45 recommendations on your LinkedIn. And quite frankly, I have quite a few. And excuse my dog, she is just Twitter-pated that we have a gate up. She's a rescue and she's a little needy. Yes, you are. But it's very important that they do see some. And so I would go to some people that you know very well, that they're not necessarily looking for a job and you're not necessarily looking for a job, but you can give each other recommendations. And that will really help you. Just a couple here, a couple there. So people can see you're active in that realm, but you're not sitting there just pasting recommendation after recommendation. I actually have a tendency when you see too many to go, because my recommendations go back to like 2005 or 2006. So then there are like 30, 40 on there, but they go all the way back then, not, oh, you know what? I'm just going to have 40 of them this year. Nobody buys into that and people think you bought recommendations. So you have to be really careful with that. It doesn't matter whether it's on Google or it's on your LinkedIn for business owners as well. You want to be careful. Don't get too many, but don't ignore it. It's a valuable resource. It's people saying good things about you and the things that you can do and how you can be of value. And that's always a good thing.
All right, excellent information. I also wanted you to know that several people have commented that you gave lots of excellent information that they're looking forward to our other programs and resources.
Oh, good.
Next, yep, I thought you'd enjoy that. Should your profile picture be periodically updated? If so, how often?
Yeah, I'd say every 5 years. You know, we change enough over time that we want to change out our photo about that often, unless we've done something drastic in our look. I usually change mine out about every 4 to 5 years. I'm getting ready to get a new picture taken. So probably in the next few months, there'll be a new picture on there. It's been about 5 years.
All right. Would you advise college students to start a LinkedIn profile before they graduate?
Yes. And yeah, you don't have maybe traditional work from the corporate America. Even if you're working at a fast food restaurant or you're working in an office doing some, office help stuff or your internships, get them on there. Work is work, whether you get paid for it or not, volunteer stuff as well. And it looks good. It looks like you're savvy enough to understand why LinkedIn would be important. And already starting that, I'm going to put that professional persona out there.
All right. And can unpaid internships, apprenticeships, or work study be used for employers and experience?
Yes, because they're still work. It's just you didn't get paid for it. Usually internships and stuff, it's not just getting coffee. You are actually doing real work. Sometimes you're doing a whole lot of work for them for free, and you want to advertise that, if you will. Think of LinkedIn and your resume as marketing documents. LinkedIn's kind of like your online brochure and website. Your resume is like your hand them the brochure. So that gives them a lot of information about how you could be of benefit. Internships and different things like that show I can be a benefit to you. It just happened to be that these were not necessarily paid opportunities.
All right, excellent news for anybody that might have been just graduating. One last question. Can job seekers upload documents to enrich their profile, such as creative or work samples or CV resume to kind of create an online portfolio?
Absolutely. Here's the thing you want to know. If it's creative work, please watermark it. Don't allow somebody to steal your hard work. I will definitely upload videos onto mine. I've got a couple I still have to upload. I don't mind uploading like a TV interview. I think I've got one of those on my profile right now, and change them out when you get a new one, that kind of stuff, or an NPR interview I did. That is good stuff to have on there. Your resume, again, is more for you to have on there when you're job seeking and you're not working. You create a lot of questions for the company that you're working for if suddenly your resume is appearing on LinkedIn. They're going, why do you have that out there? Are you job seeking? So don't make them question that one, because chances are you're linked to some people at work, or your profile has a public enough way of showing up that they can see it. So instead, be careful. And, if you're job seeking and you have no job or you're in college, yes, put it out there. Beyond that, I would not have it out there. And you can be assured if somebody wants it, they will contact you and ask for it. Okay. It's not as if, oh, well, if it's not on LinkedIn, I just can't possibly find out. I have clients that get asked for their resume all the time off LinkedIn. They'll ask for it if they want it.
All right. Awesome. Thank you all for joining us this afternoon, and thank you, Karen, for sharing all this useful information. Our next career and personal finance program will be exposing the myths of retirement investing, session 1, understanding the stock market, on Thursday, February 18th at 2 to 3 p.m. This program is the first of a 3-part series presented by Emerson Hartzeller, pro bono financial advisor. For For more information on registering for upcoming virtual presentations, visit the events page on jocollaborative.org and be sure to sign up for the Career and Finance e-newsletter to receive emails for additional live online career and personal finance programs. Thank you all once again, and have a great day, everybody.